We have Serenity and Joe Carr in the building, the creators of Serenity Foods. And if you're watching this, you'll see a banquet of Serenity Foods behind them. Do you guys have that behind you wherever you go?
Oh, yeah, we carry it just over our backs so everyone can see it when they zoom.
You know those like robots that follow you while you walk? We just have one of those with Serenity Kids food on it.
Yeah, perfect. Like if I were you, I'd just get your kids to have jackets covered in Serenity Foods that just walk behind you always. This kind of Serenity gang. You two are so cute already, and I'm in love. And it's so funny to meet you and start talking to you because if anyone that I've interviewed on the podcast, no one has management like you guys. Your assistants are tough. They were giving dates, and then they were like, sorry, we can't do that anymore. And I was like, not even Zachary Levi, Shazam, the DC Marvel superhero, like, was this difficult to pin down. You are celebrities.
We are busy people.
It's very busy.
Making baby food's hard work.
It is.
I love it, though. So let me just introduce you, and we'll get right into it. Serenity and Joe Carr are the owner of Serenity Foods, a company that does nutrient-dense foods that make children healthier by offering food that tastes great to kids and is convenient for parents. They envision a thriving planet where children are fed, raised, and educated to be healthy, happy, creative human beings. Now, I first heard about them from my friend Ben Greenfield, and I've been feeding Serenity to Chap as one of his first foods. So, Serenity and Joe, g'day.
Yay, g'day. We're happy to be here.
It's so funny to talk to the people of whom I relied and trusted in so much. Like, to find a baby food that I could read the ingredients of and feel good about giving to my son, and to be looking at your faces now, I'm like, isn't this beautiful?
Good. It's nice to meet you.
Would you tell me... I'm fangirling, big time. Would you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to create Serenity Foods?
Garbage food. I ate a bunch of trash when I was a kid. I ate crackers and chips and processed cheese and just all kinds of not nutrient-dense stuff, and it made me sick. And I had stomach aches all the time. I was always into the doctor with immune issues. And in my 30s, I realized that I could change my diet and affect my daily experience through my dad. He was a big health nut. He is a big health nut. And so food has been a really important part of my health journey for the last 12 years. And when we started talking about having a family, kind of looked at food first, weirdly. And we actually started this company before we even had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, it is interesting to walk the aisles of. I went to Ralph's yesterday, and I was like, look, I'm just going to go through the kids aisle and see what's in these formulas, see what's in these snacks, and foods that were labeled as kids' food and organic. All these things. First ingredients: canola oil, soy oil, cornmeal, cornstarch, high fructose corn syrup, and. Is that where you saw the gap in the market?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It was, what happened was, Joe wanted to start a company. We were getting together. We weren't even engaged or anything. And he's like, we need to start a company. And he's like, we need to try this baby food. So I started doing a bunch of research. I'm the researcher. It was my summer of nerddom, 2016. And we did an independent study. We just pulled data from... You always know the numbers. We
put 246 organic baby food pouch nutrition facts into a spreadsheet. We had some Indonesian executive assistant, do a little digital compiling of all these nutrition facts, and discovered horrendous trends in this pouch organic pouch baby food set. It was average of 9 grams of sugar per pouch, which for a 15-pound baby that equates to 90 grams of sugar for an adult. So that's like 3 Snickers bars in these little pouches. And there was no fat, no protein. I mean, less than 2%, less than 1% had 2 grams or more of fat. And from her nerddom, she discovered that fat was the key nutrient for babies. And then meat, there's no meat. Less than 4% had meat. None of that 4% were well-sourced meat, just, factory farm mystery meat. It was like organic feedlot meat. Mm-hmm. And those products weren't carried very many places because they always mixed them with grain to make them cheap. So there were these meat and rice blends that were gross. And so they're like, oh, they just can't sell meat to babies because they made all the gross ones. So lack of meat, lack of fat, really high in sugar. It was just all carbs.
So then I got mad. I got really mad. And I was like, man, Like, if I hadn't had the health journey, the kind of crappy health journey I had, I would become a mom, go to the baby food aisle, look at the aisle and think, oh, this must be what I should feed my baby, because those big food companies care all about my baby and they just want to make what's best for me. But I knew better, and I just got so mad about it. And I thought, you know what? Those babies, they don't get a say. They don't get a say in what they eat. Their parents choose for them. And their parents are choosing things based on what big food companies are offering. And it just infuriated me. And I'm like, okay, I'm in on the baby food company. Let's do it. Like, my heart is on fire and we need to make this better.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying. Wow. You made them yourself.
Well, all the recipes we made in our kitchen ourselves. We were living in a cooperative house at the time.
Commune.
Yeah, with like 9 other people. And we like took over the kitchen and started making baby food purees, passing them out to our friends with babies. We found, a dozen or so babies around town. And we were driving these baby food purees around town and getting feedback. The feedback from the babies was very interesting. We had to figure out how to quantify survey results from a baby, right? And so it was like didn't spit it out, kind of. That was like a good review.
Yeah. Or spit it out once
Yes.
and then open the mouth for more.
Right, exactly. Finished half the pouch and then wanted more of it, or things like that, or wouldn't even taste it from the smell. We did find that the parents' reaction was very similar to the kids' reaction. Like, if the mom didn't like it, the kid seemed not to like it, and if the mom liked it, the kid usually liked it. So there was this interesting thing we found where, it's got to taste good to parents, but also if it tastes good to adults, it'll for sure taste good to a kid. So we worked really hard on getting the meat and veggie combos that were really good tasting. And that's one of the things that people really like about our products, is that kids really like the flavors of the meat and vegetables together.
Because let's face it, feeding babies sucks. It's terrible. Like, as much food comes out as goes in. So you're like, each bite that you get to stay is a win. And you want each of those little bites or tiny little sips to be as most nutrient dense as possible.
Right.
Yeah, see, it sounds like you guys being my roommates and making Serenity Foods in the kitchen sounds bad. But what I love about Serenity Foods is all of the ingredients and all the things that are in those little pouches. I would eat that. I do eat that as a healthy person who is gone just like you, Serenity, where I've had issues that I needed to fix with diet. I've figured out that well-sourced meat, good vegetables are a way to fix and help myself. So in actual fact, what I love about your product is that I eat that stuff. I want him to eat like me. And that's what you have nailed. It's like adult food, pureed, no salt.
Yep, that's right. My favorite comment when we would have food shows and parent shows and baby shows, and we'd be handing out samples, right, of meat and vegetable puree. My favorite comment was, "Oh, that's not gross. I want to eat that."
That was like the standard for baby food, that it wasn't gross.
Yes.
So, because of all the others were. And that's why they added fruit to them. They were so overly sweet because
They're scared of fat.
They're afraid of fat. They're afraid of meat. They rely on the acid from the fruit as part of their preservation process. So it almost has to be extra sweet for the way that they process. So we had to do it all differently. We had to have a completely different processing model. We had to have different pouches. We had to have different machinery, obviously different suppliers. We created a regenerative grass-fed, pasture-raised meat supply chain that didn't fully exist. It's much bigger now as that community's grown. But we were among the first to have a regenerative supply chain, which didn't really exist, so we had to create that.
It's total pain.
Yeah, and we're putting high-fat meat purees through machines designed for fruit purees. So that was really hard. It took us 2 years to get the product out, but it launched the same day our daughter was born. So it was always meant to happen on that day.
Wow. Well, could you tell me, did you just say that your product is regenerative?
It is, yeah. Our meat is regenerative. Regenerates the land, reduces carbon from the atmosphere.
Yeah, sorry. So explain for my listeners what regenerative is.
Totally. So, you've got 3 kinds of farming. You've got degenerative farming, which is the majority factory farming. You're degenerating the land. You're making it worse and worse year after year. Better than that is sustainable farming, meaning you leave it as it was, do no harm, right?
No more harm.
Or no more harm. I get out what I put into it. But the new way to do it, the gold standard, is regenerative farming, where you actually leave the land better than you found it. You farm in a way that is in harmony with nature, so that it increases the soil microbial growth, which reduces runoff from water and sequesters carbon from the atmosphere, thus reversing climate change. And animals are key to this model. The way to farm in a regenerative way is to have a combination of various species of animals and plant life that work in harmony in the right way to mimic nature, which nature is regenerative by nature. If you leave nature alone, it regenerates itself, soil microbial growth increases, the pristine
Birds
areas.
and animals go through and rotate themselves at the right pace.
So these brilliant farmers, led by Alan Savory, is who really, he didn't really lead them, he discovered it and then popularized it to the West, founded the Savory Institute. They discovered that you can strategically use ruminants to regenerate desert. You can turn desert into grassland within a few years by bringing in cattle or bison or goats or sheep or other ruminants that strategically eat the grass, leave behind their high nutrient excrement, move to another area. And they lived in herds in nature on purpose. So you can mimic the herd life of these animals.
Migration patterns.
And thus create food off land that you can't even grow plants on because it's so desertified. Meanwhile, you're creating food, you're creating a sustainable business for farmers, you're making the earth better, you're sequestering carbon.
You have happy animals.
And the nutrition is off the charts. The nutrition, turns out if you feed and raise animals in the way nature intended, their meat has the nutrients that nature intended for us. And so these animals have the highest nutrition. So we were really committed to it from a nutrition standpoint, from environmental, ethical standpoint, and also just my grandparents were family farmers, so I wanted to support small farm operations that were doing it right. So we committed to that, and now we're one of the leading regenerative companies. We're verified by Land to Market, which is a brand new regenerative verification program, and we're the only baby food and one of few food products at all to achieve that verification. So we're right on the tip of the spear of the regenerative movement that's getting bigger and bigger all the time, and is going to be the new organic.
Yes, I'm praying for that because I love eating regenerative. It does make me feel better about what I eat, better about leaving a footprint or no footprint at all. But I'm interested, Serenity, in what you mentioned about your research into what was good and necessary nutrients for kids. And then in the end, you create a product that contains meat. Less than 4% you mentioned of food pouches for kids contain meat. So what was in your research that said that meat was necessary and important for kids?
Really, it has to do with the enzymes that are present in their digestive tracts when they start to become a food-eating age. So for lots of kids, it's around the 6 to 8, 9 month mark when they start becoming ready for foods. And they have the digestive enzymes that start out in their digestive tract where they can digest proteins and fats. And it comes a little bit later for the starches. So we knew we wanted, and also my summer of nerddom, I started really, it was an aha moment, a light bulb went off, oh, wait a second. There already is a perfect baby food out there. It's mother's milk. So if I can learn more about mother's milk, we can use that as a rubric for creating our nutrition panel, particularly micronutrients as well. But so I dragged Joe to the milk bank here in Austin, and I'm like, let's learn more about mother's milk. What is there? It turns out Austin has the nation's largest milk bank. Ladies, don't throw away your stashes. You can help newborns and preemies survive. That's just my little milk
Stashes
bank.
of breast milk.
Stashes of breast milk in the freezer. And so I started learning a lot about breast milk. And breast milk, the calories for breast milk are about half fat and half carbs. So when we were looking at the aisle and pulling those nutrition facts, and the lack of fat was just a huge, huge, glaring omission. And I've been part of the ancestral diet community and paleo community for a long time, and that is the key. And at first we wanted to put fat, we wanted to kind of advertise the fat part of it, but we realized maybe the world's not quite ready for that yet. We're going to talk about the protein.
Usually when you put grams of fat on a label, it's to show how low in fat it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, this has 5 grams of fat. Like, it's a lot, but people didn't quite get it. But they do now.
Mm-hmm.
That's changed a lot since when we launched to now. When we did a new study just a couple of years later, the fat was one of the main things people liked about our product. So we put it on the front of the label now, and other brands too are starting to advertise the good quality fats. So that trend is changing, thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what would that trend be from? It would be like from the idea that, saturated fat is bad for you. It's like a 90s idea, right? And then it carries on to today, and even people think that that's how you feed your children. So people are naturally thinking how I feed myself is how I should feed my children, and I don't like to eat a lot of fat. That would be the thing that has happened, right?
That seems to be what happened. The low-fat movement of the 80s, which there's some evidence was funded by the sugar industry to say, it's fat that's the enemy, not us. And of course, we all know now sugar and empty carbs are the cause of heart disease and cancer, inflammation. All the stuff they blamed fat for is actually sugar.
Right.
All along, it wasn't the burger; it was the bun. And meat and good fats the solution to that. So that filtered down the baby aisle. Same thing with meat. The vegetarian vegan movements scared the natural channel of meat. Meat's bad for you. It's bad for the planet. It's bad for the animals. Blah blah blah. And that filtered into the organic, natural baby and children's food as well.
Because just like you said, you who are going for a healthy diet, you want to feed your kid like you feed yourself.
Yes.
Right? So it mimics those macro trends.
So this fruit and veggie focus, right? They equate fruit and veggies as if they're the same, which really, it should be meat and veggies.
Right.
Fruit and dessert. Fruit and candy are more similar, than vegetables.
Especially
and meat.
processed fruit. Like raw fruit has a lot of enzymes and fibers and things like that. The processed fruit in pouches, a lot of the nutrients boil off, the sugars condense, and
more like jam.
It becomes a little less nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what is the necessity, a baby's brain and a toddler's brain need fat, don't they? It's an absolute necessary nutrient. Even the FDA, I've heard you mention, are aware of it now. And the FDA, as far as I'm concerned, they're the food pyramid people. They don't know jack. But even they know, that kids need fat.
Fat and meat both. The USDA guide for infant feeding that just came out was unequivocal about the 30 grams of fat a day. So again, that's like 300 grams of fat for you and me, right?
Yeah.
They said half the calories should be from fat up until the age of 2. So, and then meat, they said lots and lots of meat is really important.
There's a lot of cautions against a vegan diet
right.
for babies.
There's a lot. They were very clear.
Diet.
You need meat and animal products, and then they said avoid sugar. Avoid sugar and juice. No sugar or juice.
Like you, I was shocked by. I did not expect to be in line with the USDA's nutrition recommendations, and it was a pleasant surprise. So now we can talk about that.
Whole Foods baby aisle was not as good as the USDA's nutrition guidelines is what it came down to, but it is now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Look, when I first heard about you, I don't think you were in Whole Foods. Not that I was looking because we didn't have a baby yet, but then I found you in Whole Foods. I was like, oh, there you go. They belong in Whole Foods, because people who are more aware of what they should eat tend to shop at Whole Foods. Then I go to Ralph's yesterday, and what do you know? There's Serenity Foods. So this kind of thing is catching on somehow. And, it's funny. I think it's switching. So people are like, I would rather feed my kid the way that I feed myself. And it's actually like, you should be feeding yourself the way that you feed your kid.
Yeah. Feed our kids better than us, right? We all want our kids to have a better life than we had. So, feed them better education, better resources. So, you say our foods are what you eat. It's also really like what you'd order at a fancy restaurant. Like if you look at, grass-fed steak with sweet potato and kale, I mean, that's basically a gourmet meal, right?
Yeah,
versus
totally.
Apple and mango puree with a little bit of spinach or something is what these other baby foods are.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about, because one of your favorite products of mine, I call it a shut up food, is the bone broth puffs. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so I wanted snacking to be better. And I was incensed that there was so much rice on the aisle, because rice has a lot of arsenic and heavy metals and basically empty carbs.
It's essentially sugar.
Yeah, it turns into sugar in the body. And I got mad again at the snacks that we were feeding our babies. Basically, really low nutrient, bad oils, things like that. And I mean, don't even get me on the cost. Like, it's ridiculous what they're charging for nothing. But I knew that it was very important, even though I wasn't a mom yet. I knew it was important for pincer grasp, for practicing eating, right? To have something for the babies to really practice and try on. And so what I wanted to do was try to see, is there any way that I can make this more nutritious? Is there any way I can get any protein in there? Is there any way I can get any fat in there instead of just 100% carbs? And so I went to a bone broth manufacturing facility, and they said, well, we've got some of this like dry bone broth powder. Any chance you might use this?
Dehydrated bone broth. It was like, we figured out how to dehydrate bone broth. You want to be the first one to use it? We're like, yeah.
So it takes a while to get the recipe right. It's kind of hard to work with. It's kind of sticky, and it's a food that's not necessarily made for manufacturing. But we got it to work, and
tastes great. The taste is really rich, and it's really protein dense. And so, we were the first ones to snackify bone broth, as far as I know. We were the first major bone broth on the aisle, both with those and with our bone broth purees. And then we've got it in the snacking section. So we've got lots of other plans for bone broth in the future.
Yeah, well, I think it's like Weston A. Price that encourages that even some of the first foods you should ever feed a baby, not even a toddler, not is like bone broth.
Yeah, we did that. We cooked up little bites of liver, like a little 1 ounce of liver, with some bone broth, pureed it, strained it, and put it in bottles when she turned about 9 months old.
I like you say we. I definitely did that all the time.
That was his job.
That was you?
I thought you were saying you did it.
No, you made the bone broth.
I made the bone broth. I made the homemade bone broth, but then you always did the liver pureeing and straining and all that. And we that recipe's on our blog if anybody wants. It's an amazing.
One bottle a day,
So like after foods, when she's drinking foods and she's still drinking breast milk, they could also start drinking bone broth, and she loved that liver bone broth.
She drank that for like a year, a bottle a day. It was great till she stopped. That was annoying.
Yeah, wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about liver, because it's very right now, thanks to Mr. Liver King, whom I love and love laughing at. But are you ever going to put liver in a product?
Man, we get asked for it all the time. I really want to. It's polarizing. So people are scared of it, and people.
Our retailers are like, gross. Why would we do that?
Our processing model is does have some heat and pressure, so there is some vitamins lost. So there's a little bit of question of, in our current products, would it be worth the off flavor? But we do plan it, and then as we expand to beyond pouches into other kinds of foods, especially fresh foods, which is something we'll do in the future, fresher for fresher frozen products, it's much more useful because you can get the cook temp right and preserve the nutrition. But we definitely, it's a matter of when, not if. Like, we will be the first to bring liver to baby and children's food. Really back.
It used to be on the aisle. I have a book over there called Inventing Baby Food, and in like the 40s and 50s, there was liver and bone broth and bone marrow and all these really nutrient-dense things and heritage foods that we once knew were good for us and forgot.
Yeah.
So.
And our meat products are our best sellers, and so we keep looking for new ways to make meats. We launched the meat and herb line this year that added herbs in with our popular grass-fed chicken and turkeys. And so those are really tasty, and we're looking, and they're still doing great. So we need more meats. So one of the ones is like, hey, do we start adding liver to a meat puree, like just fortified with liver?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could even mix it with your bone broth, the bone broth puffs, like just the desiccated dried liver could be a topping, because you are already doing that, so it could be topped with liver. I would eat that.
Good idea.
So liver puff,
But a lot of parents don't understand this, and it was a really important lesson for me to learn, was that don't yuck their yum. If you give a baby some liver, you're like, oh, I wouldn't necessarily just eat liver straight up or even eat like pureed liver. But it's like, shut up. If they like it, Leave them alone. Like, let them enjoy it.
Don't make a face. Just be like neutral.
Yes.
Here you go. Here's some liver.
Great.
I thought this would be fun. I took a picture of the ingredients list of a rice or that's a bitey, a little snack that I saw at Ralph's yesterday, and labeled organic. And this is the ingredients list. Here we go. Whole grain sorghum meal. What's that? I've never heard of that before. Degermed yellow cornmeal. High oleic sunflower oil. Vanilla maple seasoning. Sugar, non-fat, dry milk. Brown sugar, molasses. Natural vanilla maple flavors. Calcium carbonate. Mixed tocopherols. And that's it. Isn't that hectic? I would never eat that.
No. Agreed.
Yeah, sorghum's a grain, by the way. It's just like a weird grain.
It's a southern grain.
Is it cheap? Is that why it's
Probably.
in there, do you think?
I mean, it's a lot cheaper than cassava or a vegetable. I mean, any grain is cheaper than any vegetable, and you know why, nutritionally.
Yes. So was that an important part of creating this? Is there some sort of paleo ideology behind what you guys do? There's no grains, I don't think, in any of your products.
We are completely grain-free. We will stay that way forever and ever.
We were very much inspired by the paleo movement and community. You know, the fundamental idea of looking to our ancestry around what is the optimal diet, what did we eat for thousands of years prior to agriculture. You know, so there's a lot of wisdom from that. And I think some of the principles have really made it into mainstream from that. The principle of nutrient density. It's not what you don't eat, it's what you do eat that matters. Vegetarians and the low-fat dieters, they were all about don't eat all these foods. And paleo was actually like more about what to eat, like eat more meat, eat more bone broth, eat more liver, right? Have plenty of fat, eat more vegetables. And if you have other stuff than that, the no grains and the no sugar and other things were less of a focus of the paleo community. It's more about what to eat. And so that was really what inspired us around every bite counts. If every bite counts, it's real estate in your stomach. For us, you know, every bite really counts for a baby who's growing rapidly, whose brain is developing, who's developing their palate preferences for life. Every bite really, really counts. And so this nutrient-dense idea, this ancestral prior food hierarchy of nutrition with meat and fat and vegetables being the center really was what inspired us, and so that's what we brought into a mainstream way. Like you said, we're
actually
Walmart.
A fellow Aussie really inspired us. Pete Evans wrote a paleo baby cookbook called I think Bubba Yum Yum, and it was kind of Weston A. pricey, but it was instrumental in helping us figure out, like, okay, so this guy's a chef, and so he knows the principles of ancestral nutrition. How does he translate them? You know, using that as some of our research, and we tried some of those things out, and you know. That's why we got the idea for the liver bone broth that we fed our kid. You know?
Yeah, I don't think people really understand how important it is for babies to eat right, because, and the reason that they don't understand it is because so many of us turned out okay despite what we were fed as kids.
True.
Right? Like when I came to America, my roommate, he was brought up on Pepsi because it was cheaper than water where he lived. He lived out in the desert. And he was an incredibly intelligent young man. And I was like, what I would have thought was that he would have disintegrated it into, a puff of ash. But he was this intelligent young man, and you kind of like marvel at the resilience that is the human body. But to give it the best possible chance, we have to be feeding our children nutrient-dense foods, right?
Also, the standard's so low. I mean, the rates of inflammation, the rates of disease, the rates of mental and emotional disorder, all these things are really high, not only in children, but in adults. So, yes, we turned out okay. We're not, emaciated, but how many people have great relationships and know how to like connect at a deep level, or like how many people are really living their purpose and like thriving in the world, And so it's like, we can survive as humans. We're incredibly resilient. We can survive. Grains are a great example, or it's a food that we can live on grains. Like we will breathe every day on grains, but we're not going to thrive. We're not going to reach our optimal mental, physical potential eating a lot of grains. Whereas you can eat only meat and be super athlete.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right, Joe. I think like maybe our standard for, and we turned out okay, is actually quite low considering like you probably have a couple of anxiety disorders, bit of depression. Like we turned out okay, we're alive. It's like that isn't the standard.
Yeah, I'm in a job I hate. You know, you're systematically destroying the planet we live on. But other than that, we turned out great.
We turned out okay. That's very good. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to talk about formula, because would you tell me a little bit about the formula that you two have created?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite product. It was blood, sweat, and tears and milk that happened. So Della, my daughter, weaned herself at 9 months old, unexpectedly, shocking me. And it was super traumatic.
We were going to breastfeed till she was like in high school or something.
We were going to breastfeed? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was planning to, I was going to shoot for like 1 or 2, you know. And it just didn't work out. And so I already knew that the formula industry was full of garbage because I had done some research, right? I already knew that. And so my heart was just like sank. I cried so many hours that I was going to have to feed her something else. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, Dr. Sarah Valentine, who's in the paleo nutrition space. And I was like, because she had told me before she had done some formula research. And I was like, okay, it's my time. I've got to find one to feed my kid. And she said, well, here's the least bad ones. They still have a bunch of synthetic B vitamins that are unmethylated and hard for babies to process. They still have industrial seed oils. Their carb sources are kind of garbage, like corn. But here you go. Here's your best choice. And I was just so bummed. And I ended up, kind of spreading out the risk. So I ended up going with a German goat milk formula called Holla that I didn't love, but it was okay. And I ended up using a toddler milk called Sammy's Milk. And she wasn't a toddler, but I had read a bunch of Facebook pages that said, like, I give this to my 8-month-old. At least it doesn't have too many seed oils, and it has methylated B vitamins. So that's cool. And so, but it also had fish oil, and it smelled like, and it was brown, and it smelled like fish. So we called it fish milk.
It was the fish milk.
Like, that spit up was terrible. But, fish oil is good for you, right? And then I ended up finding raw goat milk from a local farm that tests every batch. So
we had some donated breast milk from friends and family.
But back to the product. So at that point, my sorrow really led me to, I was like, man, this is terrible. Like, so many parents are having this exact same experience as me. Like, anguish around the options for their kid. And I emailed my friend, Sarah Valentine, and I was like, hey, any chance you want to help me make a better formula? Because I'm actually in a position to change this. I run a baby food company, and I know a lot about nutrition for infants. And so we worked on it for 2 years, and it's honestly the hardest product we've ever made by far. It's kind of a pharmaceutical, right? If it's going to possibly be a big family food, it really needs to be on point nutrition-wise, but I'm so proud of it. Every single ingredient is upgraded. Every macronutrient is upgraded. So can I grab it?
Yeah, grab it.
So the thing I'm most proud of, this is our grass-fed A2 whole milk toddler formula. And
beautiful.
The thing I'm most proud of is the fats. So we use a wide variety of fat sources because human milk, as you can imagine, is super complex. It is a living, breathing food. You're not breathing, but living food. And
60% of the calories are from fat. Yeah. So breast milk is mostly fat calorically and very complex fatty acid profile.
Yeah. And most formulas choose one fat. They'll use canola oil. And so it's just one type of fat. Of course, industrial seed oils are just garbage. Their half-life is really long. They cause inflammation. The nutrition is just not there. They're basically an industrial waste product that someone thought was a good idea to feed our nation's most vulnerable people.
They had this whole like heart healthy oil, BS that you can correlate rise of disease in this country to the use of industrial seed oil. So putting in formula is extra tragic, but it's very cheap and it's very easy to control. Shelf stable. It's easy to dehydrate. Yeah, and it's easy to control the nutrition. Like it's consistent.
What we use instead is we use A2 whole milk We use
So
extra
we
virgin
kept
olive
the fat in the milk.
oil. Yeah, most of them also use skim milk.
They use non-fat milk, which is cheaper because they sell the fat for making cheese and cream and stuff. So
Right.
non-fat milk is cheaper. So they take the non-fat milk and then they add the fat back in with industrial
Industrial
seed oil.
seed oil.
So we left the fat in,
Yep. And then
kept
we
the
use
whole milk.
olive oil, coconut oil, palm oil, which gets a bad rap for environmentally sometimes, but human milk has a ton of palmitic acid. And the best place to get it is either palm oil, which ours is sustainably sourced, or you can get it from industrial seed oils, which are garbage. So,
Right.
that was an easy choice for us to use that. We use algal oil for that source of DHA and ARA.
Which
Sorry,
one?
we're
Sorry. Say that once more.
Algae.
It's wild algae.
Oh,
So
nice.
we
Like
actually-
like almost spirulina or something like that.
Spirulina is a freshwater algae, but it's similar.
Okay.
Yeah, so
wow.
I wade out in the ocean and gather algae and like squeeze the DHA out of it right into the formula.
You beautiful Tarzan man. I love
I'll send
that.
you photos. Me harvesting algae. That algae's hard to hunt. You gotta stock it for a long time.
Love that.
And we use cacao butter, which really helps our fatty acid profile, and it also
Yeah,
doesn't
yum.
taste so bad.
Nobody's ever used cacao butter before.
And
in
we use
formula.
sunflower lecithin, which is full of choline and other really kind of healthy vitamins. So the fat profile
8
is
fat sources. Come up
what
to
I'm
8.
super proud of. But I'm also super proud of the protein. So we use A2 whole milk, which the A2 is the beta casein protein type. Most milk in this country has at least some A1 beta casein protein, which is it's known to be harder to digest. So when you're digesting A1, I'm going to get real sciencey and nerdy on you guys. When you digest A1, it forms a peptide called beta-casomorphin 7, which causes intestinal inflammation. It kind of turns the milk into cottage cheese in your stomach, sort of, instead of kind of letting it digest. So it slows down digestion. It can cause leaky gut and make it hard to digest the other nutrients in there. And human milk and almost all other mammal milk in the whole wide world is A2.
All other animal milk.
So we wanted to use A2 for ours.
It's actually a genetic mutation that came from breeding cows for milk quantity rather than quality. And so as they just kept crossbreeding cows that produced lots of milk, the quality of the milk got less and less. And now we have this A1 protein mutation that causes it to not be digestible by a lot of people. And so going back to the original mammal milk of A2, which is more like human milk and all other mammals, really a lot of people who have milk allergies can process A2 milk.
Got it. So do you want to speak? Go on, Serenity, please.
Yeah, and then there's one more thing. So then I want to talk about the third macronutrient, the carbs. So
Hit me.
most formulas use cornstarch. They use maltodextrin, which is basically just cornstarch, with a fancy name. And
Syrup,
what we
rice
decided,
syrup.
corn syrup, rice syrup. And what we decided to do was to use nature's finest carb source for milk, and it's lactose. So it's the same carb source that's in human milk and in most other mammal milks. And it's known to be easier to digest for the most part. A lot of people who think their babies are lactose intolerant, babies aren't necessarily lactose intolerant. It's other things in the milk. Maybe it's the A1.
A1, yeah, I was going to
We're
say.
still starting to kind of understand that from a scientific perspective. But lactose is not super cheap, but it is one of the highest quality carb sources you can find, and that's our only carb source.
So you're
also
finding
have
that people are loving, like kids are loving this and drinking it up. Like, you're finding that people have enjoyed it?
We are. I mean, there's a few
That's good.
people, there's always going to be some kid who doesn't like it, right? Because that's
Yeah.
just how products go. But in general, I mean, one of my favorite things to do is to go read the comments on our formula, and it's like, oh, my baby had terrible poops, and she had gas for days, and now she doesn't. Or I wouldn't cry. I just put makeup on. But some of my favorite ones are like, my kid had failure to thrive, and now they're using your formula. They're doing well, and they're gaining weight, and they're finally growing. Like, are you kidding me? That makes my heart so happy. And the labor of love that was this formula, it was a lot of work. I had a baby when I was making it. Like, it was really tricky, but it makes it all worth it, really hearing those stories.
Yeah, from time to time, I get a message that says, Luke, I've had a really bad day today, and it's really great to watch your content and have a laugh. And I think, well, doesn't that give meaning to what I do.
Right?
But to know that you've given nutritious food and drink to a toddler or a baby, that must feel really good.
It's amazing. It's why we're here. You can't see this, but right behind my computer, I've got a bunch of printed out photos of babies eating our products, because when I have hard days and I'm like, oh, this job is really hard, I just look at them like, okay, I'm here for you guys. That's why I'm doing this. You make it all worth it.
Yeah, you're probably producing a new breed of superhuman, and we don't know it. See, me and Kara talk about that all the time. Like, we never ate liver as a kid. We never ate like bone broth. We never had any of that. Like, it was rice treats, and it wasn't like, my mum was a midwife, so she knew somewhat of what she was doing. But you kind of like, we look at what Chaplain's eating, and we're like, this kid, he's given every chance in the world now.
Yeah, it's awesome. It feels good as a parent.
What every
right?
parent wants for their kid.
Yeah.
So to be able to make it easier, because we think parents really want to feed their kids healthy. By and large, it's just really hard. They're busy. They can't make all their food. The packaged food is hyper palatable, designed to be addictive. The kids want more of it. Parents are busy, so they let them eat more of it, but the nutrition's awful. So it's this cycle. They're busy, so they let them eat the package, and the kid only wants the package, and then they're eating crap. So our goal was to create packaged foods, to create foods that are convenient, but that don't require compromise in nutrition, that the kid wants to eat. And so that's what we'll continue to do through Toddler into children's food, make it easier for parents to feed their kids healthy, because it's all any parent wants for their kid, I think.
Yeah, so personally for you guys, when you were feeding your kids, or as you do you find that they have habits that you wish that they didn't have? Do they love like fruit purees by any chance, or do they love chips and ice cream? Or
don't eat the fruit purees. We let her try a few. Yeah, I gave her some of our competitors just to see. Not the straight fruit, but some of the veggie fruit ones. Yeah. She didn't like them. She eats our pouches still. She's 4, and she'll eat as many of them as we let her a day. She begs for pouches. It's like, you ask for her favorite food, she'll say pouches. She loves our product. Which is a little embarrassing, because we'd rather her eat real food. And she does, but she was a very adventurous toddler eater. I mean, she ate lots of different meats, lots of different fats. She loved scallops. She to this day loves olives. Green olives are one of her favorite foods.
Wow!
It's like cans and cans of these green olives. It's super fatty vegetable. So really, but she'll.
I mean, she's going through a little bit of a picky eater phase, right? And because she's in control of that. So that's a little frustrating, but we've taken some cool classes from Big Little Feelings on Instagram. If you guys want to check them out, I really liked their toddler parenting course about how to not use punishment and reward, instead how to call out a kid's intrinsic motivation. It's really gentle and loving, and what I wish I had had. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. I love that. What was it called? Say the name of that Instagram once more.
Yeah, it's Big Little Feelings. These two moms.
They have an online course that's 6 to 8 minute videos, so they're very digestible, and you just get to watch a little video about different sections, different behavior issues. Yeah, really, best $90 any mom can ever spend is join that program.
I love it. We'll link to that in the show notes. If you wouldn't mind, earlier in the year there was a formula shortage. Is that still going on?
Definitely still going on. It's sort of the news, the news cycle is. It's once it's news, it's not news anymore. So yeah, there it is. There's been huge ripple effects from the formula shortage. Happened because the FDA didn't regulate one of the major formula factors very well, which starts really earlier than that with the formula monopoly. They make the infant formula approval process was designed in 1980. It's the one that they still continue to follow.
It's the Act of 1980, so it was designed in the 70s.
So the science is from the 70s. So the FDA is completely outdated, and they've really created this very cumbersome approval model that favors large companies. You basically have to have really huge resources in order to get one certified. So there's basically 3 companies control the infant formula market in the U.S. And so when one of those companies' major factories was contaminated, and they had to shut it down after, and of course they don't shut it down until after babies are sick, You know, they catch them later because of a whistleblower. It's an internal whistleblower that let the FDA know about it, and then they drugged their feet on shutting it down until babies were getting sick, and a couple even died. And so they shut this plant down, and that creates this crazy shortage ripple effect. Everybody's buying all the other brands of formula. Moms, babies is their only source of food. If they're not breastfeeding, this is the only thing they can eat is these formulas, and you can't change a formula. It's hard for babies. It's like cat food. You got to keep giving the same one.
Right.
And so it was this really huge crisis, and we had launched our formula like 6 months earlier. So it was a crazy time to be selling formula. And now because of that infant certification process, we are not infant certified. We are classified as a toddler formula, so we're not allowed to market it or recommend it for babies under 12 months old. A health provider can tell you to do whatever you want. So you have to say consult your health provider if you have a baby under 12 months old and decide what you want to do. So that's where we're stuck in a regulatory perspective. So that's why it's called the toddler formula. It says 12 plus months. And so moms need to do their own research and make a decision for themselves about whether they'd rather feed our classified toddler formula or one of these other infant formulas that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But a lot of moms made that choice. A lot of people switched to us, which drove our supply down. Like, we've had trouble staying in stock. All the factories are super full because that big one shut down, and now they're trying to make it other places. So we have trouble getting line time at our factory. So we've struggled to keep ours in stock, but we have maintained in stock for all our subscribers. So moms who they need this for their baby, if they join our subscription program, we prioritize that stock and we keep that going because we want them to have that food. And but retail shelves have been a little barren, and some of our other customers had to wait. But we seem to be back on track now with production and keeping up with the demand. But it's been an amazing time to be able to feed babies when brands couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not allowed to say that this formula is good or recommended for babies under 1. Is that right?
We're not, but I'll tell you from a nutrition perspective, we did design it for babies in the common weaning months, which was the 4 to 6 month mark. So we did, from a nutrition perspective, design it that way with the intention to get it approved as an infant formula with the right business conditions for us.
So if I ask you, can a baby under 1 drink this and it's good for them, you can't say yes. Is that right?
I'm not allowed to say yes.
You could say you should consult with your health provider.
Yeah, take the can to your health provider and see what they think if it matches what your kid needs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are you willing? Are you willing to just? How about this? You don't say that you recommend it, but I'll ask you the question. You could nod or shake your head. Either way, okay? Do you recommend this formula for babies under 1?
Trying to entrap us here.
You should talk to your healthcare provider.
Very, very good. So did you mention you have a daughter? Is that right?
Yeah, her name is Della. She just turned 4.
Bella, how old is she? 4. Okay, amazing. And then if you don't mind me asking, this is a personal question, but having kids makes you worry about a whole bunch of things and about the state of the world and the state of the country that we both live in. We both live in the USA. What do you worry about the most when you get worried?
That's a good question.
I always worry. My biggest fear is shame. I think shame is the enemy of a healthy relationship with oneself and one's own power and ability to create. And our culture is just full of it, especially for children. There's so much shaming of kids everywhere you go. So we work really hard to take that out of our parenting. I'm very particular about caregivers and any kind of school. If she convinces me to go to any kind of school, probably mostly homeschool, will have to be a non-shame-based school. So I really worry about shame because it just leads to all these self-doubt and issues of low self-esteem and all that. Yeah. So, especially for girls, teen girls go through such a really awful phase where they're so shamed about so many things. So that's what I'm afraid of most.
For me, because food was such a huge part of my journey, it's a huge part of my fear around for my daughter. 2 years ago, I went to an infant nutrition summit, and infant and children nutrition summit, and they showed that the cohort of kids with the worst diets were girls aged 10 to 12. And I'm like, crap. In 8 years, I will have one of those. How do I make that better? What can I do? How can I put anime characters on shakes and make them appealing? How can I, what can I do to help that crisis that's happening? Because I was also one of those, 10-year-old girls that ate garbage.
Also very important developmental time. Second to toddlerhood is puberty and teen years. That's when your body's also changing a lot. Diet's essential.
Yeah.
You know about teenagers and how they eat? It's like standard assumption that teenagers eat crap. But maybe it's just because it's easy. And if we can make easy food, if we can make cool, easy food that's also nutrient dense, that's the ticket. So we're on that mission of having a new generation of kids grow up with easy packaged foods that are nutritious and taste great. Maybe by the time they're teenagers, they'll eat the Serenity frozen pizza.
Yeah, and then and then age 10 to 12 girls in particular. What's going on? Is it a body image issue?
It's partly that, and it's really, I think it's about friendships. And because about that age for a girl, and I don't know about guys because I wasn't one, their friends start becoming more important than their parents. So external influences start becoming more and more important than, their home life and the things that they know at their core necessarily. So that's my theory.
Same for us. The girls' friends are also more important to us than the parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that happens as a boy. I remember when becoming acutely aware of what was attractive to the girls at my youth group and whatever, because I went to an all boys school, and I think that's when self-consciousness and vanity started to weigh in, and then you come into the problem of like, what do I look like? What's good to look like? But I heard from my friend's sister, when she went to an all girls school and it was around 10 or 12, she was body shamed and told that she was fat when she was perfectly fine. And this, the horrendous things, like kids are terrible and they can be terrible to each other.
Terrible.
And it's not like girls are any better than boys, but I don't remember particular body shaming happening so much at a boys' school, but I did hear about it from girls' schools. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what's going on.
Mean girls, it's a thing.
Yeah, eating disorders and all the stuff around food, and I don't know a single woman that doesn't have something with food, some relationship with food to her appearance, to her.
Yeah.
And so that's super sad.
And I always think that, who are our examples of healthy individuals, or who do people want to look like? And the Kardashians are people that a lot of women want to look like, and they've got these waists like this, and they've got these hips and butts that are big, and these boobs that are big, and it's like, that is really, really hard to do. Especially if you don't have money. Like if you can go and pay for it.
It's fake.
Yeah, right? And so you're like, okay, so what are we setting ourselves up for? What are our expectations of our bodies? They aren't even real. And so it's really kind of scary.
Yeah, and they're airbrushed, right? You're looking at magazines, you're looking at ads. Those aren't real either.
Yes. Well, and as well as that, what we post on social media, look, I'm going to post the best possible photo of myself on social media, not the one.
Those are the best ones you got?
Yeah, that's it. And you're just kind of like, okay, no, you've made me blush, but you're absolutely correct. So you've made me blush, but you're absolutely right. Like maybe we individually all have a responsibility too, to be just a bit more lax, and maybe to show some less vanity on social media, to go, yeah, here's me with a triple chin. Have a look.
Yep. Some of our most biggest Instagram stories are starting with Della in tears, about melting down. Like we like to show the rough parts of parenting. Or I did a getting out the door saga of how long it took to get her to daycare one day.
We did one how not to potty train
your
kid.
That was a good one.
All the mistakes we made with potty training.
Yeah, I have a how not to feed your kid as well that's coming out. All the feeding mistakes we made.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, so how do we keep in contact with you? How do we follow you and support you?
Mm-hmm. So our website's myserenitykids.com. All of our products and blog and everything is there. Subscription is really good deal on the products there. Also, our products are on Amazon. All of our products are on Amazon. So you just search Serenity Kids on Amazon. And then we're also My Serenity Kids on Instagram, My Serenity Kids on Facebook, for anybody who still uses Facebook. Pretty sure we're on Pinterest and Snap, Face,
TikTok.
TikTok, and all
Good.
the things the kids are doing these days. Yeah, so kind of everywhere you could look. And then nationwide retail, where, like you said, we're in almost every store. We're in Walmart,
Yeah.
we're in Kroger, we're in Target. You know, all the natural food stores have, and Whole Foods has the best selection. If you have a Whole Foods here, they have all of our products. So the only retailer that carries everything we make, which has been awesome to have.
They're a great partner.
And but you can find us in some amount everywhere. Yeah.
I love that. So just out of interest, if you're shopping for Serenity and you buy off Amazon, is the A2 subscription, and you know how people are prioritized when they have a subscription, is it best to do via your website, or does it work on Amazon too? Best
we
by your
don't
website.
Amazon controls the subscription information on Amazon, so we can't prioritize that on Amazon. On our website we can, because we know all those people. So yes, the best way to do our formula is on subscription on our website. It's also the lowest price. You're going to get a bigger discount there as well.
Got it. Hey, it's been a joy talking to you both.
Likewise.
Fun, yeah.
And also, just let me say thank you for what you do, because you gave me and my wife a bunch of peace of mind in feeding our baby right, and we'll be feeding our next baby Serenity. You don't know what it means to give parents peace of mind, or maybe you do, but you really don't know what it means to me and to us. So thank you.
Thank you so